I'd like to call the hearing to order this morning. Today we are having a hearing on a draft bill, Title II of the 21st Century Workforce, and we have a distinguished panel of witnesses with us this morning. And I'm not going to introduce you now, but I'm going to introduce you just prior to your 5-minute statement. But we do thank you for joining us this morning. And I'd like to recognize myself for 5 minutes for an opening statement. First, I want to thank Bobby Rush, as well as Bill Flores, Gene Green, and Richard Hudson for sponsoring the bipartisan discussion draft that we'll be talking about today, entitled The 21st Century Workforce. This discussion draft will become part of our larger energy legislation that will be rolling out in the weeks ahead. I've already complimented you, Bob, and thanked you for coming. As we all know, the domestic energy sector is undergoing dramatic changes. Thanks to American innovations, our decades of declining oil and natural gas production have given way to tremendous increases in output. The Energy Information Administration recently projected that the U.S. will eliminate net energy imports by the year 2030. This abundant and affordable energy is sparking new manufacturing activity in the U.S. America's energy and manufacturing renaissance is also leading to a jobs renaissance. Energy and energy-related employment has been one of the few economic bright spots in recent years. Everything from those employed discovering and producing energy to those constructing and operating the infrastructure to transport it to the new factories that are powered by it. But America's energy transformation has some problems because we're now finding that we need more trained workers in these areas, skilled workers. And so there are many opportunities out there, and that's what this legislation is all about, trying to assist in the development of these new job opportunities. As you know, we've also had a lot of people lose their job as we make this transformation in energy. Certainly in the coal sector, they've been hit very hard. And so we have a great opportunity here. I know the Department of Energy has already expressed an interest in developing a jobs program, but we feel like it's important to provide some guidance in that. And as I had said earlier, Bobby Rush has been talking about this for some time, and actually his draft was the basis for this Title II. So we have a unique opportunity here in our broader energy bill to address this issue, and that's what we hope to do. And we hope that your testimony will provide us some insights on your thoughts on this important subject. And with that, and our next witness is Mr. Charles Wilson, who is the Senior Reactor Operator Trainer and Managing Partner of CW Consulting Group. Thanks for being with us, and Mr. Wilson, you're recognized for 5 minutes as well.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Rush, and the other members of the committee, my deepest gratitude. I am a 36-year-old black man who was raised in the South Side Inglewood neighborhood of Chicago. I was born to a single teenage mother, Elizabeth Wilson, and I have 2 younger siblings, Natasha and Tabitha Wilson. My mother's parents died while she was in her teens. My father played no role in our lives. Today, I don't know if he's dead or alive. We were poor. My family received SNAP benefits, and a small amount of money that my mother received afforded us a very humble apartment during a period in Chicago where the murder rate was nearly twice the rate it is today. Despite my impoverished circumstances, I matriculated through the Chicago public school system and graduated from Lindblom Technical High School. In 1996, my joy of having survived to the age of 17 and graduating high school displaced my need to put together a long-term life strategy and plan of execution. That lack of having specific goals contributed to me becoming a teenage husband and father, ready to repeat the cycle that is commonplace amongst those in communities similar to mine. The walls of hopelessness and poverty waited to trap yet another tenant and disrupt the generational foundation necessary to break this destructive cycle. The birth of my firstborn, Aaron Wilson, provided me an opportunity to be a man whose values and principles would be the polar opposite of the man responsible for my birth. That opportunity came in the form of a career serving in the U.S. Navy as a nuclear operator and submariner. My 6-year career provided me the base knowledge and unique skill set that was attractive and needed by the commercial nuclear industry. Exelon Nuclear gave me my first opportunity as an IBEW union chemistry technician and instructor. That opportunity set a trajectory which allowed me to obtain my senior reactor operator certification for training in December 2013. Since Exelon, I've worked at various commercial sites. Every job I've had in the industry has provided me with at least $100,000 annual income. The new awareness of this life-changing career path inspired me to partner with my best friend, Dion Clark of TCI Solutions, also a Navy nuclear operator and senior reactor operator certified trainer. Though Dion served as part of the Navy surface fleet, we won't hold that against him. Dion, a product of Chicago's Southside Robbins neighborhood, and I decided that we wanted to share the opportunity we had been given with our community, the underrepresented, disadvantaged, and underserved. Our philosophy was simple. If we could make it, so could they. And here's how. We created the Legacy Initiative, a program that is rooted in the concept of teaching young people how to think critically. Our youth span from elementary through high school, and we challenge them to take a moment and ask, with this decision, is what I'm about to gain worth what I might lose? We incentivize this intrinsic behavioral change by using ourselves as muses, making them aware of the opportunity and educating them on how to attain these opportunities. From 2008 until now, we have taught our character development and logic curriculum to more than 4,000 youth in Chicagoland, Arizona, and Pennsylvania. We've partnered with the Center for Energy and Workforce Development. We are now implementing the second phase of our strategy to pipeline these young people to those post-secondary institutions that have 2- and 4-year STEM degrees. These individuals, in turn, will become the qualified, skilled workforce that the energy and manufacturing industries need. This bill would make what were a series of chance encounters and good timing for me into a template for deliberate, rewarding strategies for those demographics I represent and more.
Wilson, you and Mr. Clark, in your program, do you all have training programs, or is it more of a mentoring, or how does it exactly?
It's a combination of both, Mr. Chairman. What we found in our time was that we had to change the behavioral process and thinking of the young people in some of these communities. We can't put them in front of an employer and they don't know how to make better decisions for themselves. So we wanted to instill things like self-concept and self-respect, accountability, and then with that we can instill leadership. So that's the first part, is to change that behavioral attitude and decision making. Secondly, yes, we do want to then train them with those stackable credentials that the doctor mentioned, and also the wraparound services that Ms. Martinez also spoke to. So there's a collaborative aspect that has to come with this. So there is the training, not only but with the mentoring, but also with the skills that they need to pipeline into the energy sector.
So do all of you agree that this type of legislation would really be beneficial?
Chairman?
Yes.
To also ask the question about other areas, there are 2 other areas that I think that we should concentrate on as well, and that is the wraparound service aspect. Groups like the United Way, if we can utilize those nonprofits that will take care of the things that children have to consider, or the youth have to consider. If you're wondering about eating, you're not going to concentrate on your math and physics. So if we have those things that sort of take those concerns off the table, I believe that will help strengthen that pipeline. Secondly, when they get to these schools, do they have adequate housing? That's something that I had one of my youth contact me about and say though he can get into the school, which was Lynn State, he didn't know where he was going to live. So that's another concern, is when they get there, how do we make sure they're taken care of when they get to these collegiate levels?
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson, and my time has expired, so Mr. Rush, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Again, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been so far a very exciting hearing for me. Mr. Wilson, as I read your testimony and listened to your testimony, I couldn't help but be moved by your story, which is a story that's shared thousands and thousands of times among youth across the nation. But Mr. Wilson, in your testimony, you stated that success can come in unexpected and unplanned manners. Tell me, what did you mean by that? Explain that more. And how do you think that provisions of this bill can help other young men and young women improve their life conditions and help them to realize that seemingly evasive but real nearby American dream, if we only had the courage to step out? How do you think this bill will assist in that manner?
For me, it's important for me to think about the fact that there is more. There's more to it, and sometimes it's a matter of exposure. When I was in Chicago and in those neighborhoods, I wasn't exposed to anything. I could only see what was in front of me, and I didn't have many role models around for me to see what was possible. So when I speak to the unexpected, I didn't script this. I spoke to my mother the other day, and I said, who would have thought in this small bedroom on 56 in Hermitage that I'd be sitting here in front of members of Congress? That's what I mean. It's not about where you're from. It's, are you going to use it as a crutch, or are you going to use it as fuel? And once you are exposed, once you have access, I believe that these young people that we're talking about, they'll see what they need to become. We'll incentivize that behavioral change. We'll see that there's something to lose. And when you feel like there's something to lose, it changes your behaviors. So for me, that is what did it. I looked at my daughter, and I did not want her to have to repeat the cycles of not having a father in her life. My father became my fuel. If I do the opposite of what he does, he's given me my blueprint for me to be successful and hopefully raise successful children. And I want to speak to a legacy. This is what it's about for me. My children saw me and how I did what I did, and now their efforts are deliberate. They're planning it. It's not happenstance, which is what happened for me. If I didn't have a friend, Brady Fox, that went to the Navy and said, hey, do you want to come? I looked around. Why not join the Navy? And with that, I was selected to be a part of the Navy Nuclear Propulsion Program. And I'm able to now say that that gave me the foundation that I have right now. And with these institutions, these educational opportunities we have now, this can now again be another pathway that wasn't expected. It now exists, and I believe this bill will allow more of these type of stories to again be deliberate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all of you for your testimony. Ms. Martinez and Mr. Wilson, I wanted to ask this question. Obviously, in the STEM arena, we want to make sure that the academic curriculum that's offered in the classroom for young people in that K-12 space is as rigorous and holistic as it can possibly be. But I'm also interested in the opportunities to connect young people with the experiences outside the classroom, in a sense, get them out of the classroom in various ways, so maybe their horizons are broad and they can see the connection to that pipeline opportunity that exists. So if each of you could just very briefly comment on that idea of how we get young people in the K-12 space out of the classroom and connected to these career horizons, that would be helpful.
For example, specifically in Phoenix, we've created a program called Legacy I3, and its purpose is to partner with these community colleges and some of these apprenticeship programs and the such. There's a specific partnership that's created with APS and Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station, and they've created an ambassador program. So what they do is they actually come to the client schools that we have in Phoenix, in the Phoenix Union District, and take the students from the class to different job sites so that they're exposed to seeing that this is really what we're telling you theoretically in the classroom. So I think that's an example. If you partner with these member companies, they'll have volunteers and those within their organizations that would love to come and then bring those students to their work site.
Great, thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. At this time, I recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you and also Ranking Member Rush for hosting this hearing today. Also want to thank each of you for your testimony. Given the timing and how little time we have left to vote, I'm going to commend each of you for the jobs that you have done and commend you for the quality of your testimony. Mr. Wilson, all I can say is wow. Yeah, what an awesome piece of testimony. Ms. Martinez, thank you for what you're doing. I think given the lack of time we have, I will just submit my questions in writing. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and I'm sorry we were interrupted by these votes, but I think everyone had an opportunity to ask some questions, and thank you all for being with us, and we look forward to working with you as we try to put this package together in an effective way. We'll keep the record open for 10 days for any additional submissions, and thank you once again, and that will adjourn today's hearing.